Angelonia Angustifolia, also known as summer snapdragon. For this video, I'm using pelleted Angelonia Angustifolia seeds. I sow Angelonia Angustifolia seeds by broadcasting them evenly across the soil surface. Please keep soil moist until seeds germinate. In this video, I use 10 Angelonia Angustifolia pelleted seeds. Pelleted seeds are simply normal plant seeds that have been coated for easier handling tiny seed. Angelonia Angustifolia seeds start to germinate. This is what Angelonia Angustifolia cotyledon look like. For me, Angelonia Angustifolia seed usually germinate between day 5 to day 12. You could start Angelonia indoors and transplant later. In cooler climate, usually you can start at 8 to 12 weeks before last frost date. Last frost date refers to the average final spring frost in your growing location. This last frost date and temperature varies greatly depending on your state, county, elevation, and even whether you live in an urban or rural environment. For starting seed indoor, as soon as seedlings emerge, please provide light to seedlings. You can put them on a sunny windowsill or grow seedlings beneath LED grow lights. Distance grow light from plant depend on LED wattage of your lights, the amount of ambient light, and the type of plant you are growing. A general rule is that LED lights should be about 12 to 30 inches from the top of your plant. As your plants grow, you have to change the height of your lights to accommodate the growing plant's height. For growing seedling using grow lights, do not leave lights on for 24 hours. Please give the seedling 8 to 10 hours of dark period. Using incandescent bulbs will not work for this process because they will get too hot and they will burn your plants. True leaves start to emerge. Before planting in the garden, seedling need to be hardened off. This hardening off process toughens the plant's cell structure and reduces transplant shock and scalding. If you don't harden your plants, the young plants will get burned by the sun, the shock of cold, or the wind. If frost threatens at night, cover or bring containers indoors, then take them out again in the morning. You also need to protect young Angelonia plants from wind and hot sun. For most plants, begin hardening off a week before the final frost date for your area. After your plant have been hardening off, you can transplant them to new container or sowing directly in the garden. For planted to new container, choose your desirable pot that is 1 to 2 inch larger than the current size, if the plant is currently in a 10-inch pot or smaller. If your current pot size is greater than 10 inch, choose a pot that is 2 to 3 inch larger in diameter. For me, best time to transplant Angelonia to new container are in early morning or late afternoon. For me, optimal temperature range for growing Angelonia is between 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, 75.2 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Minimum night temperatures for growing Angelonia is between 16 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius, 60.8 degrees Fahrenheit to 69.8 degrees Fahrenheit. For me, optimal seeds germination temperatures for Angelonia 24 degrees Celsius, 75.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Angelonia seeds need light to germinate, so don't cover them. My minimum temperature when growing Angelonia is 22 degrees Celsius. My maximum temperature when growing Angelonia is 32 degrees Celsius. My average humidity when growing Angelonia are about 84%. I grow my Angelonia in tropical climate. Angelonia prefer to grow in subtropical, tropical, or monsoonal climate zone. Angelonia hardy in zones 9 to 11, grown as an annual in colder zones. When you propagate Angelonia by seeds, it is common to have some seeds fail to germinate. Angelonia success germination rate depend on seeds quality, seed age, moisture, and temperature. For me, on average, Angelonia seed viability are about 1 year. Angelonia seed viability is greatly affected by its quality at the time of collection, its treatment between collection, storage, and the conditions in which it is stored. Soil I use for growing Angelonia contain cocoa peat, red burn soil, micro, fine sand, old humus, and charcoal. You can use whatever growing media available to your convenience. As long as you use well-drained soil to grow Angelonia, you will be fine. Also, if you can, please make sure that your growing media are sterilized and clean. By choosing sterilized and clean growing media will minimize new seedlings from becoming infected from disease-causing pathogens. Angelonia prefers slightly acidic soil pH between 5.5 to 6.2 pH. My soil pH, when I try to grow Angelonia, are about 7 pH. Soil pH is a measure of the acidity or alkalinity in soils. In the pH scale, pH 7.0 is neutral. Below 6.5 pH is acidic and above 7.5 pH is alkaline. Soil pH affects nutrients available for plant growth. In highly acidic soil, aluminum and manganese can become more available and more toxic to plant, while calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium are less available to the plant. For example, soil less than 4.6 pH are too acidic for most plants to grow. In highly alkaline soil, phosphorus and most micronutrients become less available. Without an adequate supply of phosphorus, plant growth is diminished, maturity delayed, and yield reduced. At 7.5 pH, iron availability becomes a problem on alkaline soil. In plants' nutrition, iron is required for photosynthesis and chlorophyll synthesis. 8.3 pH and above are too alkaline for most plants to grow. Most plants grow in 6 to 7.5 pH. It is helpful to check the soil pH as different plants thrive in different soil pH ranges. You can measure your soil pH by using pH meters. Container size I use for growing Angelonia Angustifolia, height 22 centimeters, width 29 centimeters. You also can grow Angelonia in bigger container than mine. The bigger the container, the bigger root system will develop and will resulting bigger plant. If grow Angelonia in the garden bed, space plants around 30 centimeters, 12 inch apart. Angelonia can grow up to 60 centimeters, 23.6 inches. Angelonia maximum plant spread and crown width 30 centimeters, 12 inches. When growing Angelonia, please make sure your container have good drainage. Waterlogged container will promote root rot. For me, the advantage for growing in container is gives me more control over sunlight, moisture, and temperature. Angelonia usually grown in garden for use as edging in a mixed border or along a pathway. Angelonia native distribution is Mexico, Guatemala, and Cuba. Angelonia is a genus of about 30 species and is classified in the Plantagenaceae. Angelonia lifespan in my climate is perennial. Angelonia can be propagated by seeds and stem cutting. Propagate Angelonia by stem cuttings usually root easily in 7 to 10 days. It seems my Angelonia have been infected with thrips. Thrips are tiny insects that dine on many types of plants worldwide. Thrips feed mostly on plants by puncturing and sucking up the contents. Although not fatal to plants, Thrips makes the foliage unattractive. A few species serve as vectors for over 20 viruses that cause plant disease, especially the tospoviruses. Some species of thrips are beneficial as pollinators or as predators of other insects or mites. We can prevent thrips from infected Angelonia by good cultural practices, providing good air circulation, do not overcrowd plants, avoid watering at night, and avoid overhead watering. Other pests you may encounter when growing Angelonia: whitefly, spider mites, and caterpillars of geometer moths. Plant diseases you may encounter when growing Angelonia: powdery mildew, botrytis, black spot, damping off, and root rots. I did not use any herbicides or pesticides when growing my plants. Angelonia is going to need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight to grow and bloom. Plants that don't get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight will get leggy and will have sparse blooms. If you growing Angelonia in partial shade location, your plant may not flower profusely compared to full sun growing Angelonia. Angelonia prefer to grow in full sun location. In my climate, I grow my Angelonia in full sun location. For this growing season, on average my water usage are about 300 milliliter every time I water my plant. In my climate, I only water my plant when the soil a little bit dry. Flower buds emerging. Time I water my Angelonia is between 7 to 8 in the morning. Water usage depend on container size, container type, weather, and climate you live in. Your water usage may be different than me. Angelonia water preference are moderate watering. Since Angelonia water preference are moderate watering, allow soil to dry before watering. For me, it's easier to overwater than underwater. Overwatering will promote root rot. Always water Angelonia at the root zone. Please don't water from overhead. Also, if you can, please avoid watering in the evening. Since at night, water tends to rest in the soil around the roots, which encourages fungal growth and insects infestation. Day 108. First Angelonia flower bloom. This is why morning watering is preferable to evening watering, as the plant has time to dry before the sun goes down. When established Angelonia are relatively drought tolerant. Angelonia may suffer leaf tip burn during long dry spells. I start using fertilizer on my Angelonia after 2 months of planting. After that, I fertilize my plant every 30 days. When growing Angelonia, I use liquid fertilizer. You can use whatever fertilizer available to your convenience. But please avoid high nitrogen fertilizers like ammonium fertilizers, which can result in excessive leaf production, weak stems, and poor blooming. Angelonia are light feeders and won't need much fertilizers. If you see your plant is struggling, please don't overfeed the plant. Some sign of over-fertilizer are defoliation, very slow or no growth, yellowing and wilting of lower leaf, and browning leaf tips. Angelonia flowers are snapdragon-like flowers and borne on erect inflorescence. The individual flowers are about 2 centimeters across. Each flower has 2 lips. The upper lip has 2 corolla lobes, while the lower lip has 3. Angelonia flowering period are free flowering year-round. Free flowering means that the plant will bloom continually through the growing season and have no defined bloom season. Angelonia flower are bisexual flowers. Bisexual flowers contain both male and female reproductive organs in the same flower. On the other hand, Unisexual flowers contain male and female reproductive organs in separate flowers. Angelonia leaf are narrowly linear, with sticky glandular hairs and serrated margins, arranged in opposite pairs, scented like apples or grape soda when rubbed or cut. Angelonia is a genus of about 30 species, but only 2 species, Angelonia Angustifolia and Angelonia integerrima, widely hybridized for commercial production. Older Angelonia non-patented cultivars vary in performance. Newer patented cultivars like the Angel Mist from US-based supplier and Angel Face series from German supplier produce larger, more vigorous and virus-resistant plants. Angelonia plants don't require deadheading to promote blooming. However, cutting the plants back promotes bushier growth. Stem cutting you get from pruning can be used to propagate new plant. By pruning Angelonia, we also can maintain an attractive plant's appearance. Angelonia can be used for cut flowers. Angelonia cut flower are ideal for vases or in combination bouquets. Angelonia flower have long shelf life of 14 to 18 days, although colors may fade. Angelonia is deer and rabbit resistant. Common name for Angelonia angustifolia: summer snapdragon, angel flower, lawn tiancher, narrow-leaved ongulon, Angelonia, summer orchid, and tenchi hana. Genus epithet, Angelonia, derived from ongulon, the plant's vernacular name in its native range. Species epithet, Angustifolia, means narrow leaf, describing the plant's foliage. Angelonia flowers attract butterflies, hummingbirds, and other pollinators to your garden. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos.